Arif was just a quiet college student, 22 years old, heading home after a brutal exam day. It was late, the bus was almost empty, and he was exhausted. As the bus screeched to its final stop, the driver yelled out, "Last stop." Everybody out, Arif stumbled off, his mind still fuzzy from the exam. But as he stepped onto the pavement, he noticed something. On the seat right behind where he was sitting, there was a backpack. A worn-out, black backpack covered in dust with torn straps and a broken zipper. He looked around. The other passengers were gone. The driver was nowhere to be seen. He should have just left it there. But he didn't. He let out a sigh. Someone must have forgotten it. He muttered to himself, "I'll just check what's inside and try to return it tomorrow." He reached back into the bus and grabbed the backpack. The moment his fingers touched the fabric, it felt warm. Not just warm, but pulsing. Almost like a faint, steady heartbeat. He recoiled for a second, then shook his head, blaming it on his exhaustion. He slung the strange bag over his shoulder and started the short walk home, completely unaware of the nightmare he had just invited into his life. Back in his apartment, Arif tossed the bag onto his small dining table. Immediately, his cat, Mittens, who was usually calm, arched her back, hissed violently, and scrambled away, hiding under the sofa. Arif laughed nervously. "What's wrong with you?" "It's just a bag." He approached it cautiously and began to pull at the broken zipper. He managed to get it about halfway open, and then he froze. Inside, nestled among old, crumpled papers, was a cassette recorder, an old, clunky model from decades ago, and it was running. The little wheels were spinning, but there was no cassette inside, and yet it was playing something. A faint, raspy voice whispered from the tiny speaker, "Arif, don't ignore me again." A deep chill ran down Arif's spine, colder than the night air outside. He whispered, his voice trembling, How does it know my name?" His hands shaking. He fumbled with the recorder, trying to turn it off. He flipped it over, popping open the battery compartment. It was empty. There were no batteries inside. How was this possible? Panicked, he slammed the recorder shut. Suddenly, the entire backpack began to shake violently on the table, as if something inside was alive and desperately trying to claw its way out. Arif scrambled backward, his heart pounding in his chest, tripping over a chair as he tried to get away from it. Pure terror took over. Arif snatched the convulsing backpack off the table, ran down the 3 flights of stairs from his apartment, and burst out into the cold night. He sprinted to the large dumpster at the edge of the building's parking lot, lifted the heavy lid, and hurled the bag inside with all his might. It landed with a muffled thud. He slammed the lid shut and ran back inside, locking his apartment door behind him. Relief washed over him. It was gone. He went to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face, his reflection showing a pale, terrified young man. He took a long drink of water, trying to calm his racing heart. The cat, Mittens, finally peeked out from under the sofa, seeming calmer. "It's over," he thought. It was just a weird, creepy prank. He took a deep breath and walked back into his bedroom, and his blood ran cold. There, on his neatly made bed, was the backpack, the same dusty, torn, black backpack, sitting there as if it had never left, as if mocking him. His phone, lying on the nightstand, buzzed. He picked it up with a trembling hand. A message from an unknown number. It had only for words, "Return what you took." Arif's mind raced. He didn't take anything. He hadn't even fully opened the bag, just enough to see the recorder. What did it want? Before he could even process the message, the lights in his room began to flicker erratically. Then, from inside the bag, came a distinct clicking sound. The recorder had started again. A new message played, the voice clearer this time, closer. "I am closer now." His hands shaking, Arif grabbed his phone again, but this time he opened his web browser. He typed in the most frantic search he could think of, old cassette recorder repeating voices, haunted backpack. He scrolled desperately through pages of generic ghost stories and urban legends. Then, he found it. A post on an old, obscure forum, dated 2016. The user was named S. Roman. The post described a backpack identical to the one on his bed, found on a bus, with a recorder inside that speaks your name. The post read, "It wants you to return something. If you fail, it returns to you every night." And then it takes someone you love. Reef scrolled down, looking for more posts, for an update, for any sign of what happened to this person. But there was nothing. Just a single, chilling line at the bottom of the user's profile, account deleted. A wave of pure dread washed over him. This wasn't a prank. This was real. He remembered the security camera he had installed outside his apartment door. He quickly opened the app on his phone, his fingers fumbling on the screen, and scrolled back through the night's footage. He found the exact time he had come back upstairs after throwing the bag away. The hallway was empty. He fast-forwarded. Then he stopped. At exactly 1:14 a.m., the footage showed the backpack. It just appeared. It materialized right in front of his door, tilting forward gently as if someone or something had carefully placed it there before vanishing into thin air. But no one was there. The hallway remained empty. The bag had come back on its own. There was no running from this. Arif knew he had to face it. He walked over to the bed, his legs feeling like lead. He took a deep breath, and this time, he tore the zipper all the way open, dumping the contents onto his floor. The recorder, some old papers, dust, and something else. A small, hidden pocket on the inside, stitched shut with thick, black thread. His hands were slick with sweat as he grabbed a pair of scissors and carefully cut the stitches. He reached inside and pulled out a tiny, rusted, metallic locket. Engraved on the front were two initials, A. R. Reef stared at them, his heart sinking. "These are my initials," he whispered. "Arif Rahman." And then a memory surfaced. A fuzzy, long-forgotten memory from when he was just 8 years old. He was on a bus with his mother. He had a locket, a gift from his father just before he passed away. And he lost it. He remembered crying, his mother comforting him, telling him it was just a thing. But he knew how much it meant. He felt dizzy, the room spinning around him. As if on cue, the recorder on the floor clicked on again. The voice was no longer a whisper. It was a clear demand. "Now return what is mine." But as Reef stared at the locket in his palm, he noticed something. It wasn't just old. It was ancient. The design, the clasp, the way the metal was worn. It was far older than the 14 years since he had lost his own. The initials A. R. They weren't for Reef Rahman. Suddenly, the recorder's voice changed, becoming a cold, clear whisper, spelling out a name, Arif Rafiq, 1994. "Return my name." With trembling fingers, Reef searched the new name. The search results hit him like a punch to the gut. Arif Rafiq, a young boy who had gone missing 30 years ago. The last place he was ever seen? On a city bus? The news article included a photo of the boy. He was holding a locket, and he was carrying a black backpack. The temperature in the room plummeted. The air grew heavy and cold, his breath turning to mist. And then the lights went out, plunging him into total darkness. From right behind him, a faint, childlike voice whispered directly in his ear, "Give it back." Reef spun around, his heart stopping. In the corner of the room, illuminated by the faint moonlight from the window, was the silhouette of a small boy. His head was tilted at an unnatural angle, his form wavering like a heat haze. The recorder on the floor played one final, heartbreaking message: "Return my memory." Without thinking, Reef took the rusted locket and placed it back inside the open backpack. Instantly, the lights flickered back on. The oppressive cold vanished, replaced by the normal warmth of the room. The silhouette of the boy in the corner shimmered, grew faint, and then faded into nothing. The backpack on the floor zipped itself shut with a sharp, clean sound. And then it was gone. It didn't fall. It didn't slide. It just vanished from the floor. Reef collapsed, his body finally giving out, and he lay there, gasping for air, sweat pouring down his face. The nightmare was over, or so he thought. Hours later, as the sun began to rise, his phone buzzed one last time. He hesitantly picked it up. One new message, from the same unknown number. It said, "Thank you, Reef. I will come again when I need you."